NASCAR fans, get ready, because a massive bombshell just dropped, and it's coming from inside Joe Gibbs Racing itself, directly challenging what Denny Hamlin has been telling us for weeks. Today's episode is one you do not want to miss. We've got two huge stories, and the crazy part is they're directly connected. On one side, a legend is talking about walking away from the sport. On the other side, his own team's president is basically saying, "I'll believe it when I see it." If you've been following NASCAR this season, you know this isn't just about one driver's future. This is about the future of one of the sport's biggest organizations, the next generation of talent waiting in line, and what the Cup Series could look like in the coming years. So stick with me as we break down both stories, what was said, how it was said, why it matters, and what it could mean for the rest of this season and beyond. And if you love daily NASCAR content, hit that like button and subscribe to NASCAR Nation Report. We're a growing channel working toward 15,000 subscribers, and if you want to be part of this community from the start, now's the time to join. Let's start with what happened on track, because honestly, this is where the whole story begins. Denny Hamlin went to Michigan International Speedway this past weekend and once again reminded everyone why he's still one of the most dangerous drivers in the Cup Series garage. Now, here's the thing that makes this win so impressive. Hamlin didn't have a clean, easy day where he started up front and just cruised to the finish. No, he had to start from the rear of the field. And if that sounds familiar, it's because this is now back-to-back races where Hamlin has had to overcome a rear-of-field start and still come away with the win. Think about what that actually means for a driver. Starting at the back means fighting through traffic, dealing with other cars' mistakes, managing tire wear differently, and finding ways to pass cars that are racing just as hard as you are. It's not a situation where talent alone gets you through. It requires patience, strategy, and a car that's capable of working through the field without getting caught up in incidents. And Hamlin did it. Again, 2 races in a row. That's not the profile of a driver who's fading. That's not the profile of someone who's lost a step. If anything, it's the opposite. It's the profile of a driver operating at one of the highest levels of his entire career, at age 45, in a sport where most competitors are a decade or more younger than him. With this win, Hamlin now has 3 victories in the 2026 season. 3 wins is a number that a lot of full-time Cup drivers would be thrilled to have for an entire season, and Hamlin has already hit that mark with a significant portion of the schedule still remaining. That puts him firmly in the championship conversation, and depending on how the playoff format plays out, it gives him real momentum heading into the postseason push. But of course, with every win Hamlin gets these days, there's one question that always comes up afterward. And it's the same question fans have been asking for what feels like years now. When is Denny Hamlin actually going to retire? And in his post-race comments after Michigan, Hamlin addressed it once again. According to him, the plan has not changed. He still intends to walk away from full-time NASCAR Cup Series competition after the 2027 season. Now, on the surface, that might not sound like new information. Hamlin has talked about this timeline before, but the way he explained his reasoning this time gave fans a much deeper look into how he's actually thinking about this decision. And honestly, it's some of the most honest stuff we've heard from him on this topic. Hamlin broke it down in a way that I think every fan can understand, even if you've never driven a race car in your life. He said there are 3 things that every driver eventually has to deal with as they get older: their eyesight, their reaction time, and their bodies. 3 simple things, but each one of those on its own can be the difference between winning a race and finishing mid-pack. In a sport where races are often decided by fractions of a second, by inches on a restart, by how quickly you can react to a car checking up in front of you, these 3 things matter more than almost anything else. So let's go through them one at a time, because Hamlin actually addressed each of these directly. First, eyesight. Hamlin said his vision remains sharp. No issues there. For a driver, eyesight isn't just about seeing the track ahead of you. It's about picking up on movements in your mirrors, spotting gaps developing 3 or 4 cars ahead, reading the body language of another car before it makes a move. If your eyesight starts to decline even slightly, it can throw off your entire sense of timing on the track. Second, reaction time. Again, Hamlin said this is still where it needs to be. Reaction time in NASCAR isn't just about restarts, although that's the most obvious example. It's about the split-second decisions you make when a car spins in front of you, when debris comes across the track, when a gap opens up for half a second and you either take it or you don't. Drivers who lose a step in reaction time often don't even realize it until it costs them. A missed opportunity here and near miss there, small things that start adding up. And then third, the body. And this is the one Hamlin said he's feeling the most right now. He talked about how his body hurts more than it used to. And if you've ever watched in-car footage of a Cup Series race, you understand why this matters so much. These cars generate enormous G-forces through the corners. The cockpit temperatures can climb well above 100 degrees during a race. Drivers are strapped into a 5-point harness for sometimes 5 hours, getting jostled and battered every single lap. It's a physically brutal job and it takes a toll on the body over time, especially on the neck, back, and shoulders. Hamlin admitted that recovery during the week isn't happening as quickly as it used to. That's a really significant thing for a driver to say publicly. It means that even after a race weekend ends, his body is still dealing with the aftermath of it well into the following days, which then affects how he trains, how he prepares, and how fresh he feels heading into the next event. So when you put all of that together, what you get is a driver who is being incredibly self-aware about where he's at in his career. He's not saying, "I can't compete anymore." He's not saying, "I'm losing races because of my age." In fact, the results say the exact opposite. He's winning and winning impressively. What he's saying is that he can feel the early signs of decline creeping in, even if those signs haven't shown up in his results yet. And rather than wait until those signs do show up in his results, rather than wait until he's no longer a contender, he wants to walk away while he's still at the top. That's a mindset that a lot of athletes across all sports talk about, but very few actually follow through on. It's easy to say, "I want to go out on top." It's much harder to actually do it, especially when you're still winning races and competing for championships. The temptation to keep going, to chase one more win, one more championship, one more milestone, that temptation is incredibly powerful. But Hamlin seems determined not to fall into that trap. He wants to be remembered as a driver who left while he was still one of the best in the garage, not as a driver who hung on for a few extra seasons past his prime. And as fans, I think that's something we have to respect, even if it means saying goodbye to one of the sport's biggest stars sooner than some of us would like. Now, here's where things get even more interesting, because Hamlin didn't just talk about his physical condition. He also opened up about how much the record books factor into his thinking at this stage of his career. With the win at Michigan, Hamlin now sits at 63 career Cup Series wins. And that number ties him with Kyle Busch for 9th place on NASCAR's all-time wins list. Think about that for a second. 9th all-time. In a sport that has been around since 1949, with thousands of drivers having competed across more than 7 decades, Hamlin is now tied for 9th in career wins. The next name on that list, sitting just ahead of him, is Dale Earnhardt, the Intimidator himself, with 76 career wins. Hamlin was incredibly candid about this gap. He acknowledged that moving up one more spot, passing Kyle Busch outright and claiming 9th place solo, is realistic. That's something he could potentially do within his remaining seasons. But closing the gap to Earnhardt, going from 63 wins to 76 wins, Hamlin basically said that's a different conversation entirely. That's not a maybe next season type of gap. That's a gap that would require an extraordinary run of dominance over multiple years, the kind of run that very few drivers in NASCAR history have ever put together, even in their absolute primes. So when Hamlin looks at the record books, he sees a realistic short-term goal, closing in on or passing Kyle Busch for 9th, and a much more distant, perhaps unreachable goal in Earnhardt's mark. And that reality is part of what's shaping how he thinks about his remaining time in the sport. He wants to maximize what's realistically achievable, rather than chase a number that might require him to compromise on the leave while you're still great philosophy he's talked about. Now here's another layer to this whole story that fans need to understand, because it actually locks in part of Hamlin's timeline regardless of what happens this season. Hamlin signed a 2-year contract extension with Joe Gibbs Racing last season. That extension runs through the end of 2027. And here's the kicker: Hamlin has said that even if he were to finally capture his first NASCAR Cup Series championship this year, in 2026, he's still committed to racing through 2027 because of that contract. Let that sink in for a moment. Even the ultimate goal, a championship, something Hamlin has chased his entire career and come agonizingly close to multiple times, wouldn't change his timeline. He'd still race one more full season after winning it. For some drivers, winning a championship might be the signal to walk away immediately. I got what I came for, time to go. But for Hamlin, it sounds like winning a title in 2026 wouldn't be a finish line. It would just be one more achievement on the way to a finish line that's already been set for 2027. That tells you a lot about Hamlin's relationship with Joe Gibbs Racing and his commitment to the team. He's not looking for an excuse to leave early. He's not looking to walk away the moment he checks off his biggest box. He's planning to honor his commitment through 2027, championship or no championship. But then, and this is the part of the interview that really got people talking, Hamlin didn't just talk about his own future. He hinted at what Joe Gibbs Racing might already be thinking about when it comes to replacing him. And that brings us to Brent Cruz. For fans who follow NASCAR's development pipeline closely, this name has been popping up more and more recently. Cruz is an 18-year-old prospect currently competing as a rookie in the NASCAR Xfinity Series for Joe Gibbs Racing, and he's widely viewed as one of the brightest young talents in the organization's development system. Hamlin specifically mentioned Cruz while discussing the future of the team. He essentially suggested that by the end of next season, meaning the end of 2027, Brent Cruz could be ready for a much bigger opportunity. Now, why does this matter so much? Because when a future Hall of Fame caliber driver, someone with 63 career wins, someone tied for 9th all-time, starts publicly talking about a potential successor, that's not just casual conversation. That's someone with insider knowledge of the organization, someone who sees the development drivers up close, someone who talks to team management on a regular basis, dropping a very specific hint about who might be next in line. And if you're Joe Gibbs Racing, replacing a driver like Denny Hamlin isn't something you can figure out in a few months. This is a situation that requires years of preparation. T. Who said that? This isn't a random fan on social media speculating about whether Hamlin will actually retire. This is the president of Joe Gibbs Racing, the man who runs the organization's business operations, who's involved in contract discussions, who has direct insight into the team's planning for the coming seasons. And he's saying on the record on a national radio broadcast that he's skeptical Hamlin actually walks away after 2027. And look, can you really blame him? Think about what Hamlin is doing right now in real time as these comments are being made. He's winning races. He just won at Michigan. He's got 3 wins on the season already. He's competing for a championship. He's showing speed nearly every single weekend against a field that includes some of the best young talent the sport has ever seen. From Joe Gibbs Racing's perspective, why would they want any of that to end? If you're running a race team and you have a driver who is still performing at an elite level, still winning races, still bringing in sponsorship value, still putting your cars in position to compete for championships, the last thing you want is for that driver to walk away while he's still got plenty left in the tank. Alpern even joked that Hamlin may have to fight the organization if he wants to leave while performing at this level. Now, that comment was clearly made with a bit of humor. You could probably hear the smile in his voice when he said it. But there's almost certainly some truth buried underneath that joke. Joe Gibbs Racing knows exactly how valuable Hamlin remains to this organization, both on the track and off it. And they also know just how difficult it would be to replace him, which we already talked about with the Brent Cruz situation. This isn't just about filling the seat of the number 11 Toyota with another capable driver. This is about replacing one of the defining figures of an entire era for Joe Gibbs Racing. Hamlin has been with this organization for the vast majority of his career. He's part of the fabric of that team. And here's something else that adds even more weight to Alpern's skepticism. The timing of all this in relation to Hamlin's results earlier this season. Earlier in 2026, Hamlin earned his second victory of the year at Nashville Superspeedway, and he did it after overcoming adversity during the race itself. It wasn't a dominant, lights-to-flag type of win. It was a win that required fighting back from difficult circumstances. That Nashville win placed Hamlin alongside Jeff Gordon for third most career victories ever through 700 Cup Series starts. Let's just sit with that for a second. The only drivers ahead of Hamlin in that particular category are Kevin Harvick and Richard Petty. Kevin Harvick, Richard Petty. Two names that are written into the history of this sport in permanent ink. And Hamlin, through his first 700 career starts, is right there with Jeff Gordon just behind those two legends. When a driver is producing numbers that place him in that kind of company, retirement becomes an incredibly difficult conversation, not just for the driver himself, but for everyone around him, for the team, for sponsors, for fans, for the entire sport, honestly, because storylines like, is this Hall of Famer about to walk away while he's still elite, are exactly the kind of narratives that drive interest in NASCAR. Now let's zoom out for a second, because there's another major layer to all of this that goes beyond just Hamlin and Joe Gibbs Racing, the broader driver market. If Hamlin does retire after 2027, that creates an immediate opportunity for younger drivers within Toyota's development system. And we already mentioned one of those names, Brent Cruz. If Hamlin's seat opens up, drivers like Cruz suddenly become much more relevant to conversations about the Cup Series. But here's the flip side. If Hamlin stays beyond 2027, if Alpine's skepticism turns out to be correct, then everything shifts. Development timelines for young drivers change. Promotion plans change. The entire pipeline that organizations like Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota Racing Development have been planning around potentially gets pushed back. And it's not just about one seat at one team either. NASCAR's driver market operates like a chain reaction. If a seat at a top organization like Joe Gibbs Racing opens up, that can trigger movement at other teams too, drivers moving from smaller teams to bigger opportunities, which then opens up seats at those smaller teams, which then creates opportunities for development drivers and Xfinity Series talent to make the jump to Cup. So when people in the industry talk about Hamlin's retirement timeline, they're not just talking about one driver's career. They're talking about a domino effect that could influence rosters across multiple teams and multiple levels of the sport. That's why Alpine's comments carry so much weight. This isn't just idle speculation from a team executive. This is someone essentially saying, our internal planning may need to account for the possibility that Hamlin doesn't actually leave when he says he will. And that uncertainty ripples outward to every team and driver who might be impacted by his decision. So let's bring this all together, because I think when you look at both of these stories side by side, you start to see just how fascinating, and honestly how unresolved, this whole situation really is. On one hand, you have Denny Hamlin, a driver who has been remarkably consistent and honest about his retirement plans. He's told us why. His body is starting to feel the wear of nearly 2 decades at the highest level of stock car racing. He's told us about the record books and how he's weighing what's realistically achievable versus what's likely out of reach. He's told us about his contract commitment through 2027. And he's even hinted at who might be ready to step into his role when that time comes. Think about everything that comes with a driver like Hamlin. You're not just replacing wins on a stat sheet. You're replacing decades of experience. Experience that helps a team understand setups, helps engineers develop the car, helps the entire organization make strategic decisions on race day. You're replacing leadership. Hamlin isn't just a driver. He's a voice in the shop, someone other drivers and crew members look to. You're replacing race-winning ability at the highest level. And you're replacing one of the most accomplished and recognizable drivers in the history of the organization. That's an enormous void to fill. And it's exactly why Hamlin made it clear that he doesn't want to leave the team in a difficult position. He wants Joe Gibbs Racing to have a plan in place. And based on his comments, it sounds like he believes Brent Cruz could eventually become a major part of that plan. Alright, before we get into the second part of today's story, and trust me, this is where things get really interesting. If you're enjoying this breakdown, take a second to hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and we're working hard toward our goal of 15,000 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to join the NASCAR Nation Report community so you don't miss any of our daily coverage. Okay, let's get into story number 2. So here's where this entire narrative takes a sharp turn. Because while Hamlin continues to talk about retiring after 2027, while he's laying out his reasoning about his body, the record books, his contract, and even hinting at a successor, someone very important inside Joe Gibbs Racing isn't exactly convinced any of that is actually going to happen. Joe Gibbs Racing president Dave Alpern recently addressed Hamlin's retirement plans directly, and his comments were impossible to ignore. Speaking on SiriusXM NASCAR radio, Alpern was asked about Hamlin's stated timeline, and his response was about as blunt as it gets. "I'll believe that when I see it. Now, take a moment to think Abu. On the other hand, you have Dave Alpern, someone with direct insight into the inner workings of Joe Gibbs Racing, essentially saying, "I'll believe it when I see it." Someone who's watching this same driver win races, contend for championships, and produce numbers that place him among the all-time greats of the sport, and thinking, there's no way this guy actually walks away while he's playing at this level. And honestly, both perspectives make complete sense. If you're Hamlin, and you've spent your career talking about wanting to leave on top, and you can feel the early signs of physical decline even if they haven't shown up in your results yet, 2027 makes sense as a planned exit point. But if you're Alpern and you're watching this same driver string together wins, contend for a title, and produce some of the best results of his career at age 45, it's hard not to be skeptical that he's actually going to walk away on schedule. And if we're being completely honest as fans, I think it's fair to say that nobody truly knows what Denny Hamlin is going to do. Maybe not even Denny Hamlin himself. You can hear him talking about wanting to leave while he's still winning. That's clear. That's consistent. He's said it multiple times now. But you can also look at the results. You can see the speed. You can see the confidence. You can see that competitive fire that's been burning in this guy since he first stepped into a Cup Series car all those years ago. And it doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon. That's what makes this story so genuinely compelling. The plan, on paper, seems clear: 2027 is the end. But the performance on the track is telling a completely different story. And now, the president of his own race team is publicly questioning whether that plan is actually going to hold up. As we move through the rest of the 2026 season, through the remaining regular season races, into the playoffs, and toward whatever comes after, this is a storyline that's only going to get bigger. If Hamlin keeps winning races, if he keeps contending for this championship he's chased for so long, if he keeps proving, week after week, that he's one of the best drivers currently competing in the Cup Series, the pressure for him to continue racing beyond 2027 is only going to grow. Some fans believe 2027 really is the perfect ending. They point to everything Hamlin has said, his honesty about his body, his clear-eyed view of the record books, his desire to leave while he's still elite, and they say, this guy means what he says and he's going to follow through on it. Other fans look at the results. 3 wins already this season, a championship still very much in play, numbers that place him alongside legends like Jeff Gordon, Kevin Harvick, and Richard Petty, and they say, there's absolutely no way a driver performing at this level just walks away. The sport, the team, the sponsors, and honestly his own competitive nature won't let that happen. And then there's a third group of fans, and honestly I might fall into this camp myself, who think it's genuinely too early to say either way. Hamlin has over a season and a half left before that 2027 deadline arrives. A lot can change in that time. His results could continue at this elite pace, making it even harder to walk away. Or maybe the physical toll he talked about starts to show up more in his results, reinforcing his decision to stick to the plan. So now I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I know NASCAR fans are going to have very strong opinions on this one. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of discussion that makes this community so great. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, make sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to NASCAR Nation Report. We're still a growing channel, working every single day toward our goal of 15,000 subscribers. And every subscriber genuinely helps us keep bringing you this kind of in-depth daily coverage. If you love honest NASCAR conversations, daily news, race analysis, and talking about the biggest stories in the sport with fellow fans who care just as much as you do, we'd love to have you join the community. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.